What's up, my comic comrades? Today we're going to crack open one of the most unique titles DC has released in recent years, Dark Knights of Steel, Issue 1. This is yet another title written by Tom Taylor that will be a 12-issue limited series. Honestly, I have no idea how Tom Taylor is writing so many books simultaneously. It's just insane. Anyway, similar to many of Taylor's other titles like Marvel Dark Ages, Deceased, and Injustice, Dark Knights of Steel is also an Elseworlds or alternate reality take of DC characters, which is right in his wheelhouse. And with Dark Knights of Steel, he's gone full Game of Thrones and medieval with the DC universe. The first issue hits pretty hard, so let's get started and see where it takes us. The issue starts off with us seeing the all too familiar images of a dying Krypton with Jor-El saying, "It started. Laura, it's happening." She says, "It can't be." He tells her, "It is. I'm so sorry. This is our son's only chance now." As we see the rocket take off fleeing the dying planet, we get captions saying most prophecies can be blissfully ignored. But sometimes events are foretold which hold too much truth. And ignoring these deviations would not just be foolhardy, they could spell disaster. It could mean the end of the world. The prophecy began. On the next page, we see the ship has crash landed on Earth, but on the page after that, we see it's not just Kal-El inside the ship, it's also his two parents with his mother currently in labor yelling, "He's coming." At this moment, a bunch of knights on horses come charging towards them with arrows drawn back, ready to fire. But Jor-El yells, "We're not a threat. Do not do this. Please, please, she's in labor." But the knights do not care. They just know these two people are not from this world as they just saw them crash land from space and release their arrows. As the arrows soar through the air, Laura yells, "He's coming," while Jor-El screams, "No." But on the next page, we see that Jor-El inadvertently activated one of his newfound powers, his heat vision, due to his extreme stress and fear, unintentionally incinerating all the arrows as well as the knights and horses. But in doing so, he saved himself and his family's life as he looks down at his wife saying, "My boy," who she just gave birth to, as she holds their new son saying, "Kal-El." She then asks, "Jor, what happened?" He grabs her by the back of the head saying, "It's all right. Everything's gonna be all right," as we see them stand in front of a kingdom. Now, I do want to mention while everything I just said is happening, we get captions from an unknown person saying, "They will come from the stars. They will look like us. They will sound like us, but they are not like us. They are demons. And the demons will take our world." Obviously speaking about Jor-El and his family. Now, at this point in the comic, we see who's telling of this prophecy as we're taken into the Kingdom of Storms. The young man on the ground in a trance-like state keeps speaking saying, "Castles crumble. People tear as easy as parchment, swifter than a crossbow bolt." The man who is writing all this down says the Constantine boy is talking in tongues, telling us this young man is John Constantine. But Jefferson just looks at him saying, "Keep writing, Eddings," every word, as lightning flickers out of Jefferson's eye, confirming this king is Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning. As Constantine continues to speak a prophecy saying, "More powerful than castle walls, soaring over moats and fortifications. Look up in the sky." Jefferson asks, "What is it, Constantine? What do you see?" He then sits up saying, "Our end." The comic then jumps to 19 years later at the Castle of El, telling us that after Jor-El and Laura landed those 19 years ago, they took over the kingdom they landed next to. We see a 19-year-old Kal-El saying, "Bruce, I'd like to come with you." But as Bruce is putting on his cape, he says, "No." Kal-El is all like, "You rely on children, but you won't have me by your side? You think me to be incapable?" He tells him, "You're practically a god, Kal-El." Kal-El responds, "I'm not a god," but Alfred speaks up saying, "You could shoot fire from your face, my lord." Kal-El replies, "Yes, thank you, Alfred. I've noticed." As Bruce gets up on his horse, he says, "I know you're capable. I've sworn to protect your family from the one thing that can harm you. I go to confront a banshee's magic. I will not lead you into danger." Kal-El responds, "Are you immune to magic? Are you not in danger?" Bruce just stares at him before riding off saying, "Stay here, please, my lord." Alfred then tells Kal, "That silent glare he just gave you, that's the look he resorts to when he's lost an argument." Now I just have to pause for a second to say it's so cool to see medieval young adult versions of Bruce and Kal, and everyone for that matter. I love this concept of doing a DC story that takes place in medieval times. Anyway, let's continue. We then see Bruce and Alfred riding to Feist village, and at the gates Bruce says, "Richard, Duke, report." At which point they show up saying, "We tracked the Banshee to the Pullman. The other Robins are evacuating the inn now." Alfred then pulls out his sword saying, "I'll guard the gate in case she gets away." Bruce then walks in with his Bat Knight armor and says, "She won't." As Bruce arrives outside the Pullman, he sees Jason pulling out an unconscious man, saying, "He's the innkeeper. He wouldn't leave. I did try reasoning with him." Bruce then tells him, "From now on, Stephanie does all the reasoning. An alarming amount of your attempts at diplomacy end with someone comatose." Which is just hilarious because as we all know, Jason Todd is the one of the Bat family who shoots first and asks questions later. Also, it's really cool out the gate we're getting introduced to a young Jason, Stephanie, Duke, and Dick. At this point, Bruce walks inside saying to the four of them, "You've done well, Robins. I'm going in." As he walks in pulling out his sword, he puts it directly next to the blonde woman's face saying, "Get up, Banshee, slowly." She says, "The door was bolted. How did you get in?" He asks, "Do you know who I am?" She says, "Yes, you're the bastard Bat Prince." He then asks, "Are you an assassin sent by King Jefferson?" She tells him, "I have no wish to harm the elves, no matter how much harm they wish upon me." Bruce tells her magic and your kind are outlawed in this kingdom. You have violated the law by being here. You will be imprisoned, Banshee. You will not be mistreated if you come peacefully and quietly. She responds, "My name is Dinah," telling us this is Black Canary. And she continues to say, "And as for quietly," as she uses her sonic scream to borderline bring the whole place down. But Bruce is somehow unscathed. So much so, she asks, how are you still alive? Why are you not torn to pieces? Because everything around them is. Then on the next panel, as we see blood drip from his ears, he says, I don't know. At which point she screams in his face again as a voice says, shh, as a hand at super speed covers her mouth. We see it's Kal-El, who tells her, you don't look like a monster, you just look scared. At this point, Bruce gets back up and knocks her out with the hilt of his sword. Kal-El then asks, was that really necessary, Bruce? He responds while putting his sword away, you're not supposed to be here. Kal-El then tells him we should probably find a way to gag this banshee. While wiping away blood, Bruce says yes. Kal then says, are you alright? You're bleeding from the ears a fair amount. Bruce responds, I'm fine. Bruce then tells her, bring her. She belongs in the Yell dungeons with the others. As they arrive back at the castle, Bruce is greeted by their court jester, who just so happens to be Harley Quinn. She asks Bruce, do you know you have an unconscious woman on the back of your horse? If you're trying to make a centaur, that's really not how it works. Bruce responds, do not torment me today, Quinn. She tells him, but you're so much fun to torment, and it's so easy. You're so dark and brooding, but with those little ears. As she flicks the ears on his helmet, Kal-El then tells her, leave him alone. She says, okay, but only because you're both in enough trouble, and your parents would like to see you, Kal-El. Now in front of Kal-El's parents, Jor-El asks Bruce, why did you take Kal-El with you? He responds, I'm sorry, it was an error in judgment. Kal-El says, don't lie for me. He didn't take me, I went on my own accord. He continues to say, I will not stand by while Bruce and his Robins risk their lives to protect us, not when axes break on my skin. Kal-El then says, the banshee was not coming for us, we came for her. Bruce then speaks up saying, my Robin at Jefferson's court learned a magical assassin had been sent. Cal interrupts saying, that doesn't make it her. Father, you talk about everything good we brought to this world, yet you're locking away innocence. Bruce then says, they are not innocent, they are magic. Jor-El then finally speaks up saying, we are the last of our race, Kal-El. I will do whatever I deem necessary to preserve and protect us. While Bruce kneels saying, and I will continue to do all I can to protect you, my king and queen. The queen tells him to stand up saying, this is as much your home as ours, and you do not kneel in it. While Jor-El says, if I had it my way, you'd be sitting here instead of us. Bruce is shocked and says, they see you as a god. I am a bastard. Kal-El tells him, who cares? Bruce looks at him saying, the entire kingdom, the kingdom I serve, our traditions do not stop at the whim of a smiling spaceman. Kal-El tells him, your traditions are backwards and idiotic. Jor-El then says, all right, that's enough. Bruce, take a walk with me. While they talk, Jor-El asks, what's wrong? You seem more agitated than usual. Bruce tells him, today I stood in the path of destruction. Wood turned into splinters and stone cracked around me. I should have been killed, torn apart, yet I lived. It is not the first time I have survived an encounter like this. I have sworn to protect you from magic, but the Green Man, when he attacked me, I can do things. I have come to suspect there is dark magic within me. I should be banished to protect you or locked away. I believe I am cursed. Elsewhere in Hub Forest, we see Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow, have one of his arrowheads charged by an unknown Green Lantern. Oliver asks, you sure this will work? The Green Lantern responds, it will make the distance. The magic will do the rest. Only your aim is in question. Oliver says, my aim isn't a concern, Green Man, as he fires the arrow. We are then brought back to Bruce and Jor-El, where Jor-El tells Bruce, you knew you were a bastard. That was never hidden from you or the kingdom. Thomas and Martha had too much misplaced honor for that. Your mother and I, you were a mistake. You are not a mistake. But what Martha and I did was, you are my son, Bruce. Revealing Bruce is the bastard son of Jor-El. Needless to say, Bruce is in shock, but his dad puts his hand on his shoulder saying, it is why I strongly believe you should sit on the throne. 2 kings have loved you. But on the next page, we see the Green Lantern charged arrow go right through Jor-El's right eye, killing him. Or so it seems. And on the last panel of the issue, we see Bruce holding his dead father as his eyes light up with heat vision. Well, talk about a twist. Freaking Bruce is the son of Jor-El, which means he's half Kryptonian and Kal-El is his half-brother. This is freaking nuts. Tom Taylor and DC essentially just made Bruce Wayne the Jon Snow of the DC universe, and I love it. I think the series is off to a fantastic start, and I can't wait for more twists and turns, which is one thing you can be guaranteed of when reading a Tom Taylor Elseworlds book. But again, I'm 100% in on this series, and I just can't wait to see where it goes from here and what other characters we'll see from this medieval era of DC. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And that's gonna bring today's episode of Variant to a close. But if you like today's video, check out this one right here. And if you like all that content, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. It always helps the channel out. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.